Hi, this is Michael Kohler with Coral Castle Explained. Okay, this is part 3 of the correlation between Coral Castle and the Masonic Temple of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania in Norman Hall. In this final video, I'm going to discuss 3 things, actually 4 things. Number 1, understanding the symbols of the bell, finally getting to that. Number 2, Hans Jenny and the science of semantics. Number 3, the secret frequency of the stone builders. And 4, the energy that is at the Coral Castle right now. Okay, let me begin. In my last video, I introduced the concept of sound and resonance, and also the work of Hans Jenny, the developer of the science known as semantics. In this video, I am finally going to address the symbol of the bell, go into semantics in more detail, and finally conclude with how Ed may have built the Coral Castle with the science of sound and frequencies. So let's begin our discussion about the bell, but before I get to the bell, I need to present a little background on the terminology used with music and vibrations. When we strike a certain key on a stringed instrument, say a piano, and if there is a cello in the same room, the same note or chord on the cello will also begin to vibrate. When we strike a certain key on a stringed instrument, or in this case like a guitar string, the note that connects with both of the musical instruments is said to be in resonance. That means they share the same vibrational frequency. Now the note or the sound that you hear, the vibration on the strings, is actually a wave. And this wave is vibrating or oscillating at a certain frequency. This frequency can also be called pitch, or more simply, the musical note that you hear. So when a sound wave is actually created using an instrument like a guitar, that is called its natural frequency. And all objects, not just stringed instruments, have a natural frequency. Wood, metal, and even limestone and coral have one. And these natural frequencies can always be mathematically represented. Okay, let me do a little summary. To summarize, musical notes are waveforms or standing waves. Waveforms have a type of vibration which produces the musical notes. Musical notes can be referred to as notes, tones, or frequencies. All things resonate at their natural frequency, and all natural frequencies can be mathematically represented. So what in the world does all of that have to do with the bell? Well, the bell is designed to be a complex musical device capable of producing one tone using multiple frequencies. The size and shape of the bell will determine the resonant tone that you hear. Bells produce what are called standing waves, which are just the same as any note that you hear when plucking a guitar, per se, with that one string. But these waves go around the circumference of the bell and create the sound that you hear. Going back to the Masonic Temple and the Coral Castle, the use of the bell seems to be obvious. The pyramid builders, the Freemasons, and Edward Leeds Skalnin were all aware of an exact frequency or tone that allowed them to move the heavy limestone and coral blocks. Just as water has transitional phases at certain temperature ranges, perhaps the limestone and coral blocks, when exposed to this certain frequency, would move from a heavy state to a light state, much like water changing to water vapor. This theory is not so far-fetched, looking at Hans Jenny's work with semantics. As the tones are moved up to new octaves, the pattern instantly changes in the sand. And when looking at the work of Masaru Emoto, we see that having a positive mindset is the key to creating the 6-pointed patterns in the ice, the same 6-pointed star that is used at both the Coral Castle and the Masonic Temple. The same symbol that Solomon used when he commissioned the building of Solomon's Temple, which marks the initial beginnings of the Freemasons using people from Lebanon, one of the only areas in the world where there are limestone blocks weighing in excess of 2,000 tons. What if the 6-pointed star, a symbol that I have shown to be directly related to phi, the mathematical constant that's found throughout the universe and nature, is not just a symbol, but is actually a geometric representation of the frequency that Ed and the Freemasons used. What if we could simply back-engineer the work of semantics and Hans Jenny? Instead of using sound waves to create geometric patterns, what if we could learn what the frequency of phi was from the six-pointed geometric pattern itself? It is my opinion that all of the megalithic stone builders knew what this frequency was, what this tone was, and that is why Solomon, the Freemasons, and Edward Leedskalnin all used this geometric form, the six-pointed star, the geometric representation of phi. In my book, Coral Castle Explained, I discuss how the construction of certain structures will actually resonate with what many researchers call earth energy. This energy is thought to be behind the use of mazes or labyrinths that have been used for centuries to help people heal. Megalithic structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza are thought to be literal power plants, naturally emanating an energy that we have long forgotten how to harness or detect. I believe that because Edward Leedskalnin incorporated the mathematical concept of phi into the Coral Castle, that it may actually be charged with this same energy, the same energy that, if we could access it, would be the same energy we could access through the six-pointed star. Before I conclude this video, there are a few rumors and legends that I would like to discuss in regard to levitation of the blocks at the Coral Castle. Many people have speculated that Ed's perpetual motion device was actually a free energy device that used counter-rotating fields to create an antigravitic field at the Coral Castle. It could be that this device used certain sounds and frequencies that allowed everything to become weightless. There are even rumors about Ed wearing heavy boots with steel soles to keep him from floating away as he positioned the blocks into place. There are also rumors of pyramids in Central America that are said to have been built in days by a people that sang the stones into place. One of the greatest legends is the one in Tibet, where a Dr. Jarl visited a Tibetan monastery near the southwest capital of Lhasa. There he witnessed monks levitating megalithic blocks 250 meters up the side of a cliff by playing musical instruments placed in an arc around the blocks that were to be lifted. Could it be that the arc at the base of the Masonic square and compasses symbol and the arc on Ed's moon fountain are also clues as to how this process was done? All we do know for certain is that the Coral Castle is here today, an 1,100-ton structure created by one man without modern tools, without any witnesses that can confirm how he was able to accomplish what only the ancient stone builders were able to achieve. Perhaps the story of how kids sneaking into the Coral Castle, who purportedly heard Ed humming while touching the stones that floated in the air, are not so far-fetched. But until we can discover what this particular frequency is, if it exists, we may never know the secrets that were lost with Edward Leedskalnin.